And welcome to episode 195 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We're amateur astronomers who love looking up the night sky, and this podcast is for anyone else who likes going out under the stars. How was your week, Shane?
Oh, more of the same, Chris. I'm starting to lose my mind a little bit. We just can't observe. It's terrible. It's been so terrible, and I'm getting so much cabin fever. I'm getting out of the house, which is good, but I really need to do some observing.
I have not left the house in 8 days. That's not a joke. Absolutely true. It's just been, honestly, it's been really cold, and either it's been just too cold to go out, or it's been too windy and blizzardy. We've had I think 3 blizzards or something and a few squalls. So when it has been warm, there was one day where it was warm-ish last Sunday, but we were recording, and then there's some other stuff I had to get done. Sunday, is sort of get ready for the work week kind of day, and I just couldn't get my schedule around to get out that day. And that was the only day I could have gone out if I had wanted to. And then I thought I would go out in the evening, and by the time the evening rolled around, things were not good again. So it's just been absolutely the worst weather. I don't even care about the astronomy at this point. I just want to, see the outside world.
Well, or a blue sky and not a cloudy sky would be kind of nice. Now tomorrow, and this has been part of the issue. So tomorrow night, clear, -3 degrees Celsius. That sounds ideal. I will certainly
175 kilometer. It's that's what happened last Monday.
Or it will, it's saying clear right now, but then tomorrow afternoon, it'll probably change to partly cloudy, which really means completely cloudy and no observing. But anyway, hopefully not.
And I mean, it's been dangerous. There's been, there's been some tragedies in this terrible weather. It's been that bad. There's been tragedies, kind of leave it at that. But I was sitting here on Monday, and I was working later into the evening online with our project manager, and I get up to get a glass of water or something. And I looked out, and I could see that my neighbor's windows were all weeping, and the water was coming out. So it had warmed up, and we had a problem with the air exchanger. And what we have here, for those that aren't familiar, is our houses are all sealed because of the cold. So you have to have an air exchanger, and ours had broken down. We had gotten it fixed. And I think either I had decided, or the guy fixing it had mentioned that, I should crack the windows and get the ice out of the windows when it warms back up, because we bought all these new windows last year. And so I did that, and the weather wasn't too bad. And then I left a couple of them open, and I was sitting here working, and suddenly I could see snowflakes flying around my office. So I decided I'd better shut the windows. So I went around and got my office window shut, one of the bedroom windows shut, and then the other bedroom window broke. We had a blizzard coming in. It had gone from +3 to -3 in the space of about 30 minutes. And in the hour it took us to get the window fixed with the guy on the phone from the window company, I think it had gone from -3 to -9. So and then it went all the way to -40. So fortunately, we did get the window back in the frame. So it was bad news here. I was a little nervous. Anyway, that was some excitement.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. So I'm teaching my astronomy class. I'm guessing you didn't get any observing it at all.
No, just a little bit of visual. Saw Venus a couple times, or at least once anyway, on my way to work in the morning, but that was about it.
Yeah, I looked at the moon and Jupiter through the window. I've been looking at Venus in the morning because I have pretty good horizons here. And I've been watching those, but that's it. That's it. Teaching my astronomy class, trying to give some people some astronomy activities not to do, but it's just been so brutal. They haven't been able to do anything. I did show them the wood Bino adapters that you made us. Remember those?
Yeah. That was it's a pretty simple adapter that, it's way better than the L brackets that you can buy for binoculars. I've never been a huge fan of the L brackets. I've owned a few different ones, and I don't know, they never seem to be stable enough for me, or I can never get them tight enough. So then the binoculars are sort of rotating on that axis a little bit.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I just don't love them. So yeah, I remember quite a few years ago, you asked if I could build these things, and they're based
Yeah.
on the I think Burlaback
Burlap.
sells one of these.
Yeah, Burlap makes them, and I've seen other versions, but I really like what you did. So first of all, like you were saying, Shane, the downside, I have an L bracket here and I have this Bino adapter here, but the downside of the L bracket is that typically the center of gravity isn't in a good spot with those. So when you're mounting it, it's always trying to dip, towards the objective end, and they're never really that well in balance.
Yeah, and I find like you pretty much have to get like the IPD adjustment in like the binocular setup before you put them on the L bracket, because if you try to make any adjustments when they're on the L bracket, I
Yeah.
don't know, it just seems to get all clumsy, and I
Yeah.
don't like it.
And then the other, the other thing is because of that, because they're kind of like shoved forward, is that, the eyepiece end is really close to like the tripod mount head or whatever it is you're using. So, it makes it awkward to actually use. So what Shane created is like so simple. It's very, very simple, is a long flat triangle. The peak of the triangle is maybe an inch and a half or 2 inches high, and then it tapers down to about half an inch high, and it's maybe about 6 or 7 inches long across the base.
Mhm.
And then on top, on the angled sides, he put a little bit of rubber padding, and then underneath he's got the 1.25 grommet, and then tacked in just a strap to strap them on. And what I like about it is you put the adapter on, and then you can change binoculars super quick. It just has a little clip. I think I'll get it. It has a little clip.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it. And yeah, you can just clip a new pair of binoculars in and out just super, super fast. And then you can pull them back so you can actually balance it on the thing, and works on just like a regular pan head. I can put it on my parallelogram mount. It has like a whole variety of different uses. It's really, really awesome. And again, like a lot of different binoculars use different different L or different threads that you would put your L bracket on. And I didn't have I didn't want to get like a whole bunch of different custom ones for a bunch of different binoculars. So works perfect.
Yeah, it's such a simple piece of kit, and it's one of these rare things in astronomy that is actually fairly cheap too, especially if you have like a saw. Chances are, if you own some kind of saw, you probably even have some scrap wood in your garage, and a piece of 2x4 or a piece of 4x4 is really all you need to make this thing. And you do a couple of cuts and you're pretty much done. And it works really well for holding binoculars, or for mounting binoculars. And like, it seems pretty accommodating to any, like, at least of the binoculars that I own. It's very accommodating for all of them. Like, it's not really like made for just one of my pairs of binoculars. It's like binocular agnostic. It works well.
Yeah, I like it because, and a lot of the time we're mounting it. Now, I don't know how big a binocular I'd put on it, but I've mounted the ones that I've put on it are mostly like 7x35s up to 20x60s. And the 20x60s I have are fairly light. And I think that's sort of the best range for a piece of kit like this. But it's super nice because like I was out one night, I was swapping between like binoculars, which you often wouldn't do once you get them mounted up like that. It would just be such a pain to unthread the screw and pull them off and keep it balanced. Whereas this just clip, and then you just have your other pair of binoculars there. So you hold the parallelogram mount down, and then you sort of carefully whip one off, put the other one in, snap it back on, and you're off to the races with a completely different set of. It's easier than changing an eyepiece almost. It's sweet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and if anybody is interested, like maybe you don't have a saw or you don't want to make your own, Burlaback sells these for 39 euros.
Yeah.
And it's on their website. It's called Binoculars Support. Okay. So you can see what it looks like there. And when you see it again, if you have the right tools, it's a pretty simple thing to just make yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, really nice. What else is going on? Oh, I submitted the article to the Journal of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada on the actual astronomy podcast. Sent that to you. You had to read through. Hopefully it was to your liking.
Yeah, it was good. I'm excited to maybe hear some other feedback once it's published.
Yeah, so the journal is freely available in the digital format. Somebody had written me and said that I guess they had read one of my articles in the Observer's Handbook, and they said they hadn't read anything else by me. I'm like, well, it's all free and available on the internet. And if people want to read, I think we put out, it's every other month is the journal, and usually they miss one of my articles. So I get about 5 out of the 6 editions a year, but I've been writing in it for about 3 years now, something like that anyway. And you can go to rasc.ca/node/47054, or if you Google, we're going to start Googling things now. If you Google RASC journal, then it will take you to the page, but you have to kind of click around. There's a search interface. You can go through and search all the past articles.
Yeah. There's a lot of good information in those journals. I don't read them usually from beginning to end, but usually there's at least a couple of articles in there that I find quite interesting and enjoy reading it.
Yeah, I don't think most people do. I think like there's just a handful of people that kind of do. I get the printed version, and honestly, I don't read it as dedicated as I should. I just I have so many other things on the go with astronomy. But it is a good resource, and I enjoy just sort of picking them up when I get them and flipping through and reading a few articles. But if people are interested on some other meanderings, and I don't know that any of the topics that I've written in there have been topics we've done on the show. So, I mean, if people are just kind of interested in some of the other stuff that we've been up to, because usually I do include Shane and Mike's observations in there, that's another source, and it's free. So you don't have to buy or subscribe or anything like that.
Yeah. And it usually covers a fairly wide spectrum of topics too. So you can usually find something of interest. Yeah,
lots of good stuff in there. Have some emails here, Shane. Don't know if you have anything to add before we dive into some listener emails.
Not really. I did receive that 18 millimeter TMB Super Mono.
Oh yeah.
So it's arrived, but I've not had any opportunity to use it unless I just want to look at clouds or I don't know, telephone poles maybe. So yeah, it's here, but it'll have to wait a little longer until I use it. And I'm still waiting for that Bino viewer to arrive. Again, hoping this week, but things coming overseas, you just never really know. It can sometimes take time to clear customs and all sorts of other hoops. So
yeah, no, I hear that. Like I said, I was trying to buy an inexpensive telescope today and disappointed I didn't get it. I'd set a limit and telescope went beyond the limit even by a few dollars, and I was like, I'm out, because I'm kind of looking for something that's a little less expensive and might cull a few things from the herd maybe and up my ante a little bit. I don't know, but I think I have to keep purchases to a bare minimum until we get some of the other stuff we need to get done this year done. So yeah, with that, we've had some emails from folks, and just sort of looking at a couple things. We had an email here from Peter, and he's the person who bought the Astrotech ED70 from Astronomics there, and he bought it. I think he bought it in the fall, and then I was really curious about it, and we'd had some communication, and I think I'd looked at a few of the Astronomics telescopes over the years, like at star parties and stuff, always pretty good. And so he's just kind of filling us in on some of the details. And I should say, I probably got some of the details wrong because he had sent some photos, and I think I might have made an assumption here. So I'm just going to read this, okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so Peter writes, "Hi, Shane and Chris. Thanks for the mention today. Sorry, your weather is so awful. Thank you." It is terrible. Okay, so he said, unfortunately, AT70 ED does not come with a case. So the AT70 ED is a 70 millimeter refractor with ED glass. So it's apochromatic. So that means it's mostly color free, and it's only $299. So he said, what I showed you was a Pelican knockoff that he bought from Harbor Freight for about $30. And he also bought the $140 reducer flattender that they recommend for astrophotography. So the total cost for him was about $440 once he kind of put together his astrophotography setup for this telescope. And then he writes, I have not shot pictures without the reducer flattender, but we know that the straight visuals from the scope are excellent. Yeah, they are really good scopes and really good, I think, getting started at astrophotography telescopes. And he goes on to write, they also have the AT60 ED for $400 plus another $140 for the reducer flattener. And this is a full apochromatic, apparently, and the reviews are excellent. I expect I'll be tempted to get one later in the year. And he says, I'm afraid I've been captivated by these small light refractors. All the best, Peter. And yeah, so I wrote him back and I said, and I guess like I didn't dive into the Astronomics website, but I'm like, how come the AT60 ED is $101 more than the AT70? And he said that I guess the AT60 uses lanthanum glass, which is a more expensive glass that I know a lot of the big manufacturers like Teleview and Vixen use in their equipment. So that's why the 60 is more expensive. Yeah, I'm not sure how much you would probably see some better like red color correction in the field with that. So that's what I'm gathering. Any comments in this email, Shane?
Yeah, so the little 60 uses so there's two elements. It's a doublet. One of the elements is lanthanum, and it looks like I think the other element is FPL 53. So it is like, I guess, what would be considered a higher end glass, both of those, than just a standard ED refractor. Like you said, the big difference, if there is a difference, it's probably actually not that big, but it might be just a little bit in the color correction that you see. I don't know. I guess that would be an interesting comparison, though, would be to have like an FPL 53 or, lanthanum versus, I don't know, what would it be? FPL 51 maybe is in the regular ED. That would be my guess.
FPL 51 is shot, CHOTT. That's the shot glass. And that's the same glass that was used, I think, in the Voyager missions. I could have that wrong.
Actually, that FPL 51 is very well regarded too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if you can get that anymore. I'm not sure. I'm not much of a glass expert. I should really just close my lips right now on this stuff. So
yeah. Yeah, your license plate doesn't say Glass Man or anything like that.
No. I'm far from that level of accreditation.
to make an obscure Seinfeld reference. Yeah, and what was funny about this is, as Peter and I have been having this conversation, the great reviewer Ed Ting, who has a great YouTube channel now and has been around for a long time in the amateur community doing telescope reviews. He says that the AT70 ED is also among his most highly recommended, sort of getting started in apochromatic telescope, realms or whatever. It's basically among the most affordable, high quality little telescopes you can get. So, yeah, I mean, I have one of the earlier William Optics, which I think is somewhat similar to this. And that's what I bought to kind of get into this realm. And it didn't cost $299. It costs a lot more than that. And again, one of the reasons why I like this telescope so much is the AT70 ED is going to give you pretty darn good color correction and nice sharp stars. It's small, it's fast, and it's got a 2-inch focuser, and probably would outpunch my ST80 Achromat, which once I fitted a 2-inch focuser on that, came out to more than the AT70. So I think that as far as bang for buck goes, when it comes to little refractors, it's gonna be pretty tough to beat the AT70. And I think that possibly the ST80s often run a little bit lighter than 80 millimeters in aperture anyway. I think they end up getting stopped down one way or another inside. So you might not even get the full 80 millimeters there, whereas the AT70s, you're getting a full 70, and it's apochromatic, or maybe some people might say it's semi. I haven't looked through one of these newer ones, but I'm assuming they're pretty close to color free. So anyway, they're pretty cool scopes anyway.
Yeah. I think it's a great candidate for like a strong recommendation for first scope or like not even first scope, but if anybody wants just a nice portable refractor, hard to beat.
Yeah, I think Peter said he might mention us to Astronomics, which would be cool. I've bought lots from them over the years. Bought some eyepieces from them last year. They have a nice sort of entry level series called the Paradigms, I think, or it's something like that. I think they're like an Astrotech Paradigm. I think Astrotech is their like house brand, and I bought them for my nephew, but I did try them out before I sent them, and I think they're like a 55 or 58 degree field of view eyepiece, and they were really nice, and I think they were like $40 each American or something. They were a lot for what you get. And I remember trying those out thinking, oh, I wish they had stuff like this when I was getting into I was going to say sport, but getting into the hobby of astronomy. So,
yeah. There's just so much good stuff now. It's really, it's awesome, right? It makes the accessibility into the hobby so much greater.
Yeah. Oh, and Astronomics, we're not sponsored by them or anything. They're just one of the suppliers that I personally buy from and have been happy with. And I'm just happy to mention it to people, because people are often wondering like where to go and who to buy from. And how I found out about them is they're actually the sponsors of Cloudy Nights astronomy forums, which we all know and love.
Absolutely. And I think if you're a Cloudy Nights member, you get a small discount for shopping there as well, like 5% off or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was doing last year when I was buying some gear for my nephew. Once you factored in, I think that their prices were actually a little less expensive anyway. And then once you factored in the discount, and they have pretty good shipping to Canada, and some U.S. retailers won't ship to Canada, or they don't use good shipping methods, but Astronomics does, as do the other ones that I deal with. And I was pretty impressed, but I'm on their mailing list though. So it was sort of top of mind that right at the same time I'm communicating with Peter on this, I got an email saying that they have a bunch of 100 degree branded eyepieces in stock as well. So they've got a 9, a 7, a 13, and a 20 millimeter 100 degree. And I think they're probably pretty similar to some of the other ones that are put out there these days, but they were in stock this week. So they had sent this note out saying that their stock of 100 degree eyepieces had arrived. So kind of thought that was pretty neat too. Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying one. They've got a 4 millimeter and 28 millimeter in stock too. Those are, anyway, I always think, it would be cool if we did have a store sponsor. I would love just to try this gear out and give it away. I always think that would be really neat. So,
one can dream.
Yeah, one could, but yeah, like I have no like real compunction to have like a massive eyepiece collection. I really probably got all the eyepieces I want, but and because I have astigmatism sometimes, like I'd love to go to a star party and look through a lot of these different 100 degree and 82 degree eyepieces, but like I wouldn't buy them, but I just want to look through them, right? And like that's a set I haven't looked through, so I would love to, but anyway.
Well, I've been sort of on the fence a little bit with the Nikon HWs, and what scares me or keeps me away is the eye relief. And I read a number of reports that say, oh, it's fine with eyeglasses, but when you're spending that kind of money, like I would like to try before I buy. And some of those eyepieces, unless you're at a large star party, you just may not be able to find somebody that has them, because they are expensive, which means not everybody has them, and it's a little harder to find somebody in the field that's actually using them. So anyway, I'm crying about problems that aren't really problems. So.
Yeah. We also had an email from Larry. I guess you and Larry were talking. I'll read this, and then maybe you can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I love this one. This is good.
Yeah. Well, did you want to read it? Go ahead.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Sure. I'll. Dear Chris and Shane, hope you guys have gotten out to do some observing. It's been mostly cold here for the past week, so the only observing I've done is with my eyes or binos on short evening walks. Really enjoy this, though, as it's helping me to learn the sky better. So I have a question for you guys, and I thought it might also be something worth talking about sometime on the podcast. A little bit ago, I put a post up on Cloudy Nights asking for suggestions for open clusters that would be good in a more light polluted sky. I was surprised that there were so many good responses. One of the posters suggested that a good way to observe open clusters in urban skies is with really high magnification. So using like 140 to 175 power. And then this is done in order to darken the background sky, increase the contrast, and bring out the dimmer members of the cluster. This all made sense to me, and the poster is a very experienced observer. I was wondering if either of you have tried this observing technique, and if you had, what were the results? So yeah, I've definitely used that technique in the city, and I find it a lot more noticeable like under light polluted skies. And what's noticeable is that darkening effect of the background. And the higher the magnification, the blacker the sky becomes. And really, this is just a result of shrinking the exit pupil, and not as much light is hitting your eye. Therefore, things are dimmer. What's key about this, though, is it's proportionately dimming everything that you're looking at. So if you're looking for faint objects, they'll become even dimmer because there's just not as much light coming through your optical system. So it's sort of a balance, of increasing the power to kind of darken the background sky up enough, which makes other things pop out sometimes, but also not using too high of a magnification or shrinking that exit pupil too much to reduce some of the light for faint objects that you might be interested in, or faint aspects of that object you're interested in. Do you have any comments on that, Chris?
Yeah, and I think when I replied to Larry, I mentioned this as much, because like where I live is so like where I live couldn't have better horizons like for observing planets almost. Like, I mean, I have like really great horizons in almost every direction, like except kind of where my house is and where my next door neighbor's house is, like sort of due south, like except for absolutely 100% due south. I can get everything. And then, if things are in due south, I can typically get it just before it passes the meridian from the backyard, and then go to my front driveway and then kind of get it as it whips around. So it's not too bad. But as far as dark sky goes, like it's just, I find it too frustrating because, and unlike Larry, I talked about this, is like I can just pack my stuff up about as long as it takes me to drag it around the back of the house. Even before I set it up, is how long it takes me to pack up. And in 15 minutes, I can be under like a really decent portal for slightly better sky. And so it's really difficult for me to say, okay, well, I'm just going to observe open clusters from the yard. Because if I want to observe, I'm like, well, I'll drag my stuff. But I did say this, and that's that even when I, mostly observe clusters from darker skies, typically I'm running up to 185 power in my 4-inch. So I'll, of course, I've got finder eyepieces and that. Running about whatever it is, like 18 or 20 power, give or take. And then what I'm doing is just like running through a variety of different magnifications. Mostly I've been using my 12.5 Doctor with some Barlows. So I have a 1.6, 2.1, and a 3.2 Barlow. So not to kind of break down all the magnifications, people can do the math themselves. It's got a 740 millimeter focal length. So, I'm going right from like 20 power all the way up to 185, like depending on the object. But the bigger objects, of course, I find like you can start to lose the context as that power runs up. But for smaller clusters, yeah, for sure. Like when I was, doing some other stuff last spring, I was, using those high powers and observing some of the smaller clusters there was, that's definitely my technique. And I know the technique of other people that as well, more experienced observers are where, I've obtained that information from. So it does make a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Bill wrote an update on the H beta filters that he attached to his 15x70 binoculars. And I think we touched on this last week, the initial email. So what's the update here, Chris?
Yeah, so Bill wrote an update. What he's doing is he's made these, they're just like cardboard circles, just like if you cut a piece of cardboard box up and then kind of wrap them around the filters and trim them really short. And then what he's done is sort of fitted them into the eye cups of his 15x70 binoculars, which are just like the standard 15x70 binoculars most people have. And then he's made some observations with them. So the first email we had, which was a week or so ago now, he was saying that he had just done this on kind of a crappy rainy night. and then decided that he would try it out. And then so this is the report of him trying it out. And I think I don't want to take credit where credit isn't due, but I think we kind of spurred him on to do that. So Bill writes, so I was out splitting next year's firewood and listening to the latest podcast and heard you guys talking about my Bino filters and realized I hadn't reported back. They work great. Last Thursday, I had a chance to try them out. Went out at Pearson College, and I've been out at Pearson College with Bill on a rainy night. The results were as good as I'd hoped. He says, Barnard's Loop, especially the northern section, was obvious. IC 434, which is the nebula that extends down from Zeta Orionis, which is where the Horsehead is. Anyway, he says IC 434 also stood out, and he put the binoculars on a tripod and said, I really believe B33 might have been detectable, although like 15 power, 70 millimeter plus or minus aperture. Yeah, it might be possible. And he said, then I swung around to Auriga and looked for the flaming star. And he said it was a recently defined 7. So I'm guessing like a number 7. And there was also a hint of IC 410. He says in Orion, the M4243 region was alive with glow, but he forgot to give a look for the California Nebula. And he continues to say, what I did notice was a glow around the edge, which I attribute to the cardboard ring. So I flocked it. And that was the thing that I kind of had been a little bit concerned about with putting the filters on the sort of observer side of the eyepiece instead of in the light path, is that you can get some of this reflection, but still usable. And so he's kind of flocked them down and painted the rest flat black. So I think he's going to reduce that to a minimum. And then he said, next go around, the glow had gone away. So I take this as a win. As you can see, the filter is set deep inside the cell. I was hoping to create an eyepiece effect. They fit nice and snug inside the rubber eye cups. So really good. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for sending us the update. I think that's super cool, and certainly something I've experimented with a little bit in the past, but I've put them over the objective side, like using 2-inch filters. And I always thought it'd be cool if I could get like 3-inch filters and then put them over the objective side of some larger binoculars. Figured a way to dismantle binoculars and get them in the middle, but things get so expensive at those price points that better off just buying a dedicated pair of binoculars you can switch eyepieces in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Any comments on that? You going to do it?
Nope, probably not. But I think it's awesome. I just I don't know. I like my binoculars. I don't know. I guess part of the issue too is I would have to then buy additional filters to double up, and maybe one day, but that's not too high on my list right now.
Yeah, I've played around with it a little bit. One thing I had tried to do, and I had experimented with this this far, is I had a pair of those binoculars. And one thing I had done was I peeled off the rubber eye cups, and they have like just the standard plastic over the eyepieces, and then it kind of folds back and it's all pretty flush. And what I did is just very carefully work them off, because although they're glued on, they're rubber and they don't have to be. So it's sort of like, I don't know when they were building them, if they were just trying to figure out how to use more glue when they made them or what. But anyway, the glue kind of easily let go. And I pulled one of them off, and I took a filter and I got the glass out of the filter. And then I simply put the filter over the eyepiece. And after I pulled the rubber off, and then I put the rubber back on. So then I just had the filter right against the glass, basically. And I thought that would be a way to do it, because then you could still use your glasses and there'd be some rubber there. And so you're not as likely to scratch the filter. And I always thought that would be a great direction to go in. But again, you're dismantling a lot of stuff there, and your chances of having a dire accident with the filters and messing them up, and they're not inexpensive, is fairly high. But I thought that could be a way to do it as well.
Yeah, that's pretty involved. Not for the faint of heart, I guess.
Yeah. So I haven't, but I have thought quite a bit, when I read Bill's report there. I think, I know there's been several versions of like 70 millimeter binoculars over the years that you can buy, that you can sort of swap in your own eyepieces. And I thought, that would be nirvana when it comes to doing something like this, because then you would really have the best of all worlds. But again, I've never been a super big fan of the angled binoculars. As much as I want to like them, they haven't really done it for me in the field. It's more like they look cool, and the idea of them really appeals to me. But once I use them a few times, they just didn't really do it for me the way that I thought they would. So, have you ever used angled binoculars, like 90-degree or 45-degree binoculars?
Yes, I have. But like more like the touristy spotting scopes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like they're okay during the daytime. I've never used them at night, I guess, though, is a better answer to the question.
Yeah, because like unlike with like a bino viewer where you're looking at a planet, and a bino viewer is kind of like, in a way, like, just in my mind anyway, like a fancy or different way to view eyepieces, just like you might have different eyepieces to view an object. But with the angled binoculars, I found that, like, because you're not looking straight through them. And I think that when you're using a binocular, one of the huge advantages, and I don't know whether it's just me or what, but I think there's something like in your vestibular system, like the stabilizing system that is the parts between like your ears and your eyes and your brain, like this whole thing that tells you like which way is up and everything, because like you're just looking straight through. I think in a way that's like part of the binocular experience. And that when I went to 45 and 90-degree, and I lost that, you still get all the benefits of the binocular experience, but you lose that kind of straight throughness, that makes it so easy to point and aim them.
I will say, like, just with the bino viewer experience that I have, there's have you ever gone snorkeling, Chris, like in water?
As opposed to like the beer vat I tried once. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, quite a few times.
I don't know about you, but whenever I go snorkeling for the first time and I dip my head underwater, it's almost like I start to hyperventilate, because it's not, my brain doesn't calculate that I should be able to breathe underwater, but I can't because I have the snorkel. Yeah. And then once I kind of calm myself down, breathing becomes normal, and it's not an issue anymore. And I kind of like, I felt like a similar experience with my bino viewer, not impacting my breathing, but when I'm at the telescope, my brain believes that I should be looking with one eye, and because that's how I've done it for pretty much my entire life. Yeah. And when I'm using two eyes in that orientation, it's almost, I think, confusing to my brain. And it takes me a few minutes at the eyepiece with the bino viewer to sort of like calm down my vision and, just relax my eyes to take in the view with two eyes and to merge the images and all of that fun stuff. And, maybe that's part of it, right? Is just because it is sort of abnormal to be looking that way. We're just not used to it.
Yeah. And the other thing I found in the sense, I've looked through the APM 100 millimeter, I think they were EDs. They're a really good pair anyway. And I've looked through the Kawa 82 fluorides. So these are among, I think, the better ones, like, and sort of was out with them for extended periods. And it was sort of like the same thing where you end up manipulating your body more than the binocular, which I found ergonomically really challenging as well, because they were always on like fixed tripods, like you couldn't raise and lower them. So like a game when you just have your handheld binoculars, like you're able just to kind of see where you can look without really thinking about how you're situated. But with those ones, I just found like the angles were never very comfortable or whatever. And then it just seemed like you were kind of hunched over them quite a bit. And so you're sort of looking down, and then they're pointed up, and then it's sort of hard to navigate a little bit. And yeah, it's just a lot of futz factor too. Like, I really wish they would be more like on a parallelogram mount. That's why I always thought it'd be cool if I could get a pair that was small and light enough that I could put on my parallelogram mount, which I think can hold up to 6 pounds, something like that. I feel like that would be good if I could find a small enough pair. But I think that's about that's about the only way I think I would want to use them. But yeah, maybe someday if I can kind of cobble together something out of some Borg parts, I might try something like that. I feel like that would be cool. I feel like that would be really cool. But then it's so small, right? That you're basically putting together something that is so tiny at that point that just getting a really good pair of 10 by 50s that you can just sort of handhold or with minimal support starts to make more sense. So then you're like, well, what have I accomplished by spending a lot, like an exorbitant amount of money just to get a binocular that's small and light enough I can put on a parallelogram mount, which there's many versions of this already available, that I could get and use. So yeah, it becomes like sort of the strange kind of, netherland of not really worth it to do in the size that I would need to do it in. So yeah, it's never gotten done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. So I think we had a few other emails that came in as well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I'm not going to dive too far in. Chef wrote us on the barbecuing bit. We've got a lot of emails on the barbecuing. I think we should do an episode in the summer on that. Felipe sent a bit of an update on his go-to project he was talking about. I think he's found somebody relatively nearby that's also working on a go-to project. That person has a 10-inch. I think they're looking to sell it, and I think I owe him an email on that. Sometimes, usually I'm pretty good. I think I end up replying to like 90% of the emails, but sometimes I get an email open. I start thinking about what I'm going to reply, and then just life happens, something happens, and then my apologies if I ever do that to people. And our friend Kathleen, we had in the show like about a year and a half ago or something like that. Anyway, Kathleen wrote, and she really liked the Astronomy Friends episode, which is appropriate because she's an astronomy friend of ours.
Yep.
That was great. So hopefully we can meet up with her this summer. We didn't get to observe with her last year because of the pandemic one, and then when we were supposed to meet up, I think 2 years ago it was smoky and the weather was looking bad, and she went observing and we didn't go, and it was bad. And then last year, the first time it was pandemic, and the second time it was her that made the call not to go. Mike and I went, we observed, and she didn't come. And I think we end up with a bad night and a good night or something like that. So it was all right.
Yeah, because we were having smoke issues again, and it was looking a little dicey as to whether or not it would be worthwhile.
Yeah, you didn't come either. And but one of the nights was really good. Yeah, we had one really good night, one night that was mediocre. But anyway, that's the way it goes. And then Wade wrote, I really like Wade's email. Wade's in Australia, and he wrote a detailed observing report on his exopupil and astigmatism. Mm-hmm. Did a bit of an experiment there and had a bit of a show idea out of it. What do you think about that, Shane?
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting email, and it was really, the premise of the email was talking about different exit pupils and how it impacts, or how it coexists with astigmatism in our eyes. Folks that read about this stuff on cloudy nights have probably come across some posts where people state, if I use like a lower focal length eyepiece, meaning high magnification, small exit pupil, some people report that they no longer see the effects of the astigmatism that's in their eye. Therefore, they can observe without wearing corrective eyeglasses and not have any degradation in the view, because this small exit pupil doesn't expose the astigmatism in their eye. But it's probably, I don't know, Chris, I think that topic deserves more than just a couple minutes on it. We might be able to turn that into an entire episode.
I think so. I kind of want to do that one right. And I feel like, although it's something that I've thought a lot about, I'm not sure if we maybe we should look and see if we can find somebody who's a little bit more of an expert on it. Because I feel like I really haven't gone down the rabbit hole in that, other than to run my own experiments, which basically what I found for myself is that, no matter what exit pupil I'm using, I can detect deterioration in the image quality due to my astigmatism if I take my glasses off, such that, at like, a 6 to 7 millimeter exit pupil, I almost feel like the image is to me anyway, unacceptable. So I absolutely need to have eyepieces that I can use my glasses with. And then, even once I get up to like under a millimeter exit pupil, like at 0.7 or 0.75 millimeter exit pupils, and even using like really good eyepieces, like when I use my Pentax 5.1 XO, which is among the best low glass planetary eyepieces, I notice a big difference. I still notice a big difference. It's worth having the eyepiece, and with that eyepiece, I can kind of arrange myself such that I can see some of the image when the scope is tracking with that eyepiece in. But I don't use it as much as I would if I could use it without eyeglasses. But still kind of worth having in the kit. But yeah, I notice it way down. I think Wade was saying he notices it kind of less the smaller the eggs people gets, and I generally notice that with people. And I don't know. I think that it'd be nice to have somebody on that really has gone down the rabbit hole on it, or somebody who's a bit of an eye expert or something like that. So anyway, do some research there.
Yeah, because one of the things you and I talk about all of the time is like the quality of your optical path. So we talk a lot about, the quality of the telescope, quality of the eyepiece. And if you're using a telescope that requires a diagonal, that's part of it too. One thing we really don't talk a lot about is that your eye is a part of that optical path. And, your eyes change as you age, which introduces a whole bunch of other variables. But even determining like if your left eye or your right eye is better for observing, and then making sure you use that eye. Like, I think instinctively we're all like, we have a dominant eye that we open up for telescope observing, but maybe your other eye is better, and that'll improve your views. So I would love to do an episode on this one.
Yeah, it would be cool to kind of to really think on it. And I know we have a few show ideas like this. I really like the idea. I just really want to do it properly. Like, for example, maybe we'd even get into like picking out eyeglasses. Like, I know, like if I just go to the, eyeglass place at the optometrist and just get them to fire in any old pair, like I did on one occasion, because for whatever reason, I decided I just wasn't going to spend the extra money. And I went up and they just fired in a pair of lenses, and I drove home and I had to call them the next day. I'm like, I can't use these lenses. Like, they had so much chromatic aberration. Like, everything was either outlined in red or outlined in blue to me. Right. But clearly, like, thousands and thousands of people are getting these because they're the most generic lens that's produced, they told me, and these lenses are all produced in only like one or two factories, like here in Canada anyway, I think. And, I think they supply all of North America just about. And these are the ones that the majority of people get. But to my eye, and for whatever reason, maybe I'm just more sensitive to secondary color than most, but I just couldn't stand it. It was like looking at Venus through like the worst achromatic lens I've ever looked through, like, except everything was like that. Right. I was like, I can't stand it. It was just like, distorting the whole world,
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's a lot of different things, and maybe it's just because from looking through like quality glass over the years, you get sensitive to seeing secondary color, and so I don't know what happened there, but certainly could get down a rabbit hole. I got to get new glasses anyway, so maybe I'll do some more research and do some thinking about that as I'm going down that path too. And yeah, not really happy on the new lenses. Like, I got lenses a couple of years ago and they've gotten really scratched up, and I'm fairly careful and not so happy with that. That's actually, I think, half the reason why I need new lenses is they're just scratched in the center, and that's no good.
Yeah, that can play into it too.
Yeah, I did get a Zeiss pair of glasses once, and I got to say, I might do that again. I was very happy with those. So,
yeah, they make good stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's it. I think that's what we'll stick with for this episode. I can't really talk today for some reason.
That's a good sign to wrap things up.
Yeah, I'll have to go home and Google that. Do you have anything to add, Shane?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, I'm going to sign off here and close with thanks, Shane. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please like and subscribe. That really helps the algorithms. And we're always excited to get your observing reports to actualastronomy@gmail.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.